So chapter 19 is a lament, which is an expression of grief or sorrow. And the lioness is meant to represent Israel, and the lions are the kings. And Israel has these great kings, and they're rising up, and they're very strong. But then one is captured and taken to Egypt, and the other is captured and taken to Babylon. And then the imagery changes, and it's talking about a vine, a strong vine that's uprooted and then planted in the desert, and then a fire spreads through one of the branches and consumes all its fruit. And this is talking about Nebuchadnezzar's deportation of the princes of Israel to Babylon. And the fire is talking about Zedekiah's rebellion, which caused Israel to split up so much that David's line was brought to an end. And so they're just lamenting, they're just expressing their grief of all that's happened. And then the second part of today's passage just looks at all of Israel's rebellion, but also just God's enduring patience for them. As God reveals himself to them, and it says he reveals himself, and then he promises them freedom, and he just says, turn away from the idols that you're worshipping. And each time they go back to him, and he comes and he promises them their own land, and he says, turn away from those idols and things you shouldn't be looking at. And they go again, and they worship idols, and each time he manages not to explode and get really angry and just completely destroy Israel. Each time he has mercy on them. And I think that the reason that Israel seem to go back to these idols so much is because they just want the big things, and God wants the best for his people, but he doesn't want to just hand them this perfect life on a plate. He doesn't want to just hand us a good family, great children, a great house, a well-paid job, and then just go and leave us. He wants a relationship with us. He wants to be there with all the big and the small things. He wants us to trust us with everything. And that's why when he took the Israelites out of Egypt and they were in the desert and had no food, he gave them food for each day. He gave them enough for each day because he wanted them to trust him daily. He didn't want them to trust him weekly or monthly. He wanted them to come back to him every day. And if they had got that, if they had got, I need to be with God every day, I need to trust him with all the small things, then perhaps they wouldn't have looked away to the idols, because they would have realised that God satisfies all their different needs that they need. And so this passage just shows so much of God's patience for Israel as he just pursues them and pursues them and pursues them.